Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and today we're going to be talking about the proposed Saryn changes that are coming into Warframe sometime this year. Now, I'm making this video, and to me, it doesn't really feel like that long ago that Saryn actually got her first initial rework, because Saryn used to be like the go-to nuke frame. Like, if you had a room full of enemies, all you had to do was bring Saryn, press 4, and every single enemy in that room would be dead, because she used to be kind of like just this one trick pony, right? You just press your miasma and everything would die, because it worked in a weird way where you hit your initial miasma cast and then it would deal like a damage over time, and it just dealt insane damage. But then they tried to rework that from being like this one trick pony frame to this frame where it has, like, more interaction or synergy between the abilities, right? But in that attempt, they feel like they kind of missed the mark, which is what has led to this second rework, I guess you could say, for Saryn, where they're changing up how Spores interacts with enemies and other abilities and stuff like that. So the current way for playing Saryn is you would cast your Molt, and then you would cast your Spores on your Molt, and then you would go ahead and use a weapon like the Ignis or the Pox or the Turret to pop those spores, and then the spores would spread to other enemies that are within your power range, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and run away from that Molt because I hate the noise that it makes. It puts me off whenever I'm talking. Like, I've tried recording this video so many times, and just that Molt, that noise is so weird. But yeah, so you would cast your spores on the Molt, you would pop them, and then it would spread to enemies within the power range, right? So there you go. You have the viral ticks and stuff like that. So the spores would apply viral procs at a status chance of 10%. So all you had to do was keep on spamming your spores, and then there you go. You would have that viral proc affecting basically every single enemy that walked within the power range, and then that would reduce their maximum health, leading to like a lot of damage coming out of Saryn, right? So that's kind of the lazy way of playing Saryn. Like, that's not going to get you optimal DPS out of her. The optimal way to play her would be to use every single ability in conjunction with one another. So you have your spores on, you would be eating away at the enemy's health with your viral procs and stuff like that. You'd have your toxic lash up, buffing up your melee damage, and then you'd obviously be casting spores on the enemy, and then also popping the spores using your miasma as well, which actually dealt corrosive damage. So the more damage you built up with your spores, the more damage you would deal with your miasma, right? Because obviously the enemy's maximum health would be reduced, and you're stripping away their armor with miasma and stuff like that. So it just, made for massive damage coming out of Saryn. With this rework, they're making it so that lazy way of playing Saryn, where you're just casting your 2 and then spamming your 1 on your 2 and then popping them, they're trying to get rid of this thing. So to my understanding, they're making it so that spores doesn't work on Molt anymore, and they're also changing the damage type of your spores from viral to corrosive, and they are upping the status chance of the spores from 10% to 50%. So you're going to be stripping away enemies' armor more often. But the catch also is they're changing miasma's damage type from corrosive to viral, right? And they're increasing the damage from 350 to 500, and the duration from 3 seconds to 5 seconds, right? So it's going to inflict double damage to enemies that have spores on them as well. And that leads on to another point. Whenever you cast spores, it's going to have infinite duration and infinite damage scaling. So you're casting it on an enemy, and then you're going to pop those spores, and you just keep on casting your spores over and over and over again. And then that way, like, you deal insane damage, because they don't have a duration anymore. They're, like, introducing, like, I guess, durationless scaling with damage, like endless scaling with your damage here. So you don't have to mod for duration as heavily on Saryn anymore, apart from, like, let's say you want to mod for Toxic Lash. So Toxic Lash is also getting some changes as well. So it's not just affecting your melee anymore, because Saryn wasn't really ever a melee-based frame. But basically, endless scaling damage on your 1, complemented by viral on your 4, damage buff on your 3, and your mult's also going to work a little bit like Iron Skin. So, I don't know. I think the Saryn rework sounds pretty powerful right now. 50% status chance, stripping away enemy armor with your spores, endless scaling damage with endless duration on your one, molt that works like Iron Skin, like you get invulnerability, a damage buff for all of your weapons, and even more damage to your melee weapons as well with your third ability, and then viral damage on your miasma with 100% guaranteed status effect and increased damage. So, sounds pretty powerful. Sounds pretty insane. I think what I'm seeing right now on forum posts, Reddit, stuff like that, people are more disappointed at the fact that a more underwhelming frame isn't getting reworked or changed. Like, in some people's eyes, Wukong, for example, or maybe even, I would say Core is pretty underwhelming. Just any frame that, X person finds underwhelming, people are more disappointed that Saryn is getting another look at, rather than, oh, this frame over here is completely neglected, and, why is Saryn getting reworked? She's fine how she is, yada, yada, yada. I couldn't tell you why DE suddenly felt the urge to kind of jump in and take another look at Saryn. Obviously, they feel like they kind of missed the mark with their first initial rework with Saryn, and that's what's kind of urged them to come in and take another look at Saryn again. I would like to think maybe it's because people are playing her a little bit more in Sanctuary Onslaught, and it's kind of showing DE like how people kind of use Saryn, and it's not the way that they originally intended, right? So, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, the best way to use Saryn right now is to use all of the abilities together, but what most players do is just do this. And then they're just standing doing this for the majority of the mission, and that's not going to get you optimal damage, but it's going to get you like a pretty hefty chunk of damage if you just stand and do this. Probably the best way to get damage out of Saryn. Let's just go ahead and unpause this AI, spawn them in again. I'm invincible, so it should be good. What we're going to do, we're going to spam my spores on these guys. I'm going to cast my free. I'm going to do a spin to win a little bit. And then I'm going to hit my 4. And then you'll see that we start to deal some insane damage, reducing enemies' health. And we're more or less one-hitting them whenever we go through them with the Skoliak, right? Because the enemies have reduced health. You can also take away a lot of their armor. And you can see like how much damage you deal with those like initial little ticks there. So you have the Toxin from your Toxic Lash, and you have the Viral eating away, reducing their health, and then you have the Corrosive stripping their armor, so you're dealing a pretty hefty amount of damage. Now, of course, you could say, well, you're only dealing that amount of damage because you're using the Skoliak, and yeah, you know what, you should be using your weapons whenever you're playing a frame. Just makes sense, if you want to use Spin to win, if you want to use Condition Overload, you want to do whatever, it's totally fine, but this is just kind of how I currently play Saryn. I spam my spores on the enemies. I would run around, use my free to buff up my melee, and then I cast my 4 every so often to kind of strip away armor, and then make it so that I deal even more damage across the board, right? Rather than just, let's just stand and do this, because this is pretty boring, right? Nobody wants to do this, and I doubt DE want to see people just standing and doing this in Sanctuary Onslaught or in Hydron or whatever, It's all about making kind of the kit of the Warframe synergize more between all the abilities and make a little bit more sense, because, like I said, Saryn isn't necessarily a melee frame, so the fact that her free only buffs up her melee didn't really make that much sense, but it's going to buff up the melee even more so after this change. but you're also going to get that buff towards your primary and your secondary. Your 4 viral damage with 100% status chance, pretty powerful. Your 2 giving you that invulnerability, just kind of like Iron Skin a little bit. Pretty awesome. They're also giving Saryn and Saryn Prime a base armor increase too, so they're making her a little bit more tanky, which is always good to see. And then obviously you have the endless scaling damage and endless duration coming from your spores, which just sounds phenomenal, right? Stripping armor, doing a buttload of damage, just sounds great. So, you know, we're kind of jumping into unknown territory here because we don't have any frame in the game that has endless scaling damage, right? Like we don't have anything, literally anything that can do that. But what I will leave you guys with, like, don't walk away from this video thinking, oh, Saryn's going to be super overpowered, because keep in mind, like, even a Sheev in this game can, like, one-shot a level 155 heavy gunner or bombarder or whatever. So that's kind of my thoughts and opinions on it. I think the rework's going to be pretty cool. Obviously, we're just going to have to wait and see what it's like whenever it comes out. And as for, like, the order of which DE rework stuff and things, I've just kind of accepted that DE are going to do what DE want to do, and no one's going to kind of stop DE from doing what they want to do. They have their list of things that they want to get done, and they're going to go through that list, like, one by one, and it doesn't really matter, you know, what anyone has to say about it. So it's just kind of how the game works, and that's just kind of something that I have to come to accept being a YouTuber for the game. I kind of just have to make videos for the now and then kind of adapt as DE, like, change or do whatever. So, you know, I can't stop them from doing anything. And yeah, so as for other frames getting the attention that they deserve, just give it time. You know, eventually DE will take a look at other frames, but, like, reworking an entire frames kit kind of takes a lot of work, and it makes sense, at least to me, that they probably already had the groundwork for Saryn, like, just lying around, so they thought, well, people are currently just standing AFK in Sanctuary Onslaught, spamming 2 and 1, and maybe using macros to do that, so maybe we should take a look at Saryn, because that's not the type of gameplay that we want to see in Warframe type of thing. So, I don't know. Other than that, like, that's my thoughts and opinions on it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button below. If you want to see more Warframe videos from me, hit subscribe and go ahead and hit the bell icon to stay notified. That's it. Notified. Stay up to date, notified, whatever. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.